We were talking about this just right before we started recording. You were saying that wealthy people in India should move or should fund 100,000 great ideas. They should move their money from dead assets like real estate to IP. Something similar. I may be butchering what you were saying. Can you explain that idea to me? What were you trying to say?
Yes. It boils down to what is the purpose of life. You know, some of us who have achieved, enough wealth, our purpose now should be to make human life better.
Sure.
That's what is ultimate happiness is not
Consumption.
It's
sharing.
making someone else happier.
Sure.
Your kid, your family member, whoever else.
Your friend.
Friends, your country, the world at large, whatever.
Right.
That's true happiness. And, obviously a lot of people have become wealthy in an asset-based economy. Land prices have gone up, more people, it's a question of supply and demand. That's what it is, Why do people want to live in DLF? Because there's limited supply and there is massive demand. Everybody wants to be seen at that place, which is great for a first world, first order improvement of your life. Second order, but you look at all the Western economies of the world that are progressing phenomenally well, whether it is coming up with a new plane or new drone or new AI stuff, whatever, they're all IP based. Everything is ideas and thinking about ideas and making stuff better, machines better, this better. India has to transition into an IP based economy if it has to become a world player.
What does that look like, transitioning into an IP based economy? Help me visualize it.
It means majority of the population is involved in creating new intellectual property, not in buying and selling real estate or building factories or exchanging money. It's
give me an example of IP. Like, what does IP mean in that sense?
The top 35 of the top 50 companies on earth, most valuable companies, are all in the IP space. Google, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon,
So by IP you mean code, or is it how? I'm still struggling to understand what is the boundary line to the concept of IP.
Where you are involved in changing the world through your ideas, not because, for example, all of the services companies in India, Infosys, they're not in IP creation, they're just body shopping. They're just saying, you tell us what to code and we'll code it at a cheaper price. And we call that software. It is not software. It is just telling people.
Software labor.
It's software labor.
Right.
That's it. IP is original ideas that create value for all of humanity and that, become big companies like Idea and that, have a first mover advantage. Like, for example, Google, right? There is the person who's first. Today you could have 20 search engines in India. None of them are as good as Google, right? Google was the first.
Right.
That is IP. So IP is coming up and developing original ideas for the whole world to use.
Can you think of any Indian company?
Zero.
You can't think of any idea. Very interesting. So
no critical thinking. So no companies. I'm sorry. I know. I'm saying this brutal. I'm not saying it.
I've got the most brutal Sabir Bhatia on camera today. It seems like
not brutal. Most honest.
Yeah, right.
There's a difference between brutal and honest. I don't want to put anybody down.
Right.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
But I want to tell the truth.
I think that's what we're here for as well. I'm in agreement of the fact that Indians can get emotional, particularly at this stage in the country's development, where if you criticize them, they get hurt, right?
No reason.
Look, it's
that
really
is
the lens.
ego. The purpose of life is to completely curb your ego. Hinduism teaches us that.
Sure.
And I am the first to say, success is not in our hands. Only effort is in our hands.
Right.
And by chance, if you become successful, don't claim any part of it.
Right.
That is humility.
No, I feel like a lot of Indians are coming from a very dreary recent past and watching all the development that is happening, the progress that is happening, slow paced as it might be, obstructed as it might be, is people get a little emotional they get a little sentimental about it, and the criticism might hurt. I completely understand their point of view in that way. But unless we pave the way for a better India, it will not be better. And if somebody wants to come face to face with the realities of India, all they need to do is step out and look at the air, and that should tell you enough.
And I'm saying this problem can be fixed very easily. There's not even a hard solution. You decentralize decision making. Today, all decision making in India is centralized. They build, 5,000 more kilometers of road, and they think they've conquered the world. I mean, decentralize it and build 50,000, 500,000 more. I'll give you another example.
Managing projects can be overwhelming, especially when juggling multiple tasks, multiple deadlines, and team members. That's where Odoo's project management comes in. A powerful, intuitive app designed to streamline how you plan, execute, and track your projects. Odoo is an all-in-one management software designed to simplify your business operations. Whether you're running a startup, managing a growing business, or leading an enterprise, Odoo offers a wide range of easy-to-use applications tailored to your needs, all at one place. Odoo Project Management is crafted to help you to stay on top of every detail. Whether you're managing a small team, handling multiple projects, or overseeing complex workflows, Odoo makes it easier than ever to stay organized and focused. Let's open the Odoo Project Management app and see how it works. The first thing you'll notice is the clean and intuitive interface. You can start planning your projects effortlessly with customizable Kanban boards. With just a few clicks, you'll have a clear visual way to organize tasks, track progress, and manage workflows. And if Kanban isn't your style, you can switch to Gantt view or other layouts that suit your workflow better. Need to adjust priorities? The drag and drop functionality makes it easy to shift tasks and stay flexible. Collaboration is seamless here. Add project details, assign tasks to team members, set deadlines, and communicate, all without leaving the app. Everything you need is in one place, making teamwork smooth and efficient. Want to see how your project is performing? The app also lets you generate insightful reports, so you always have a clear overview to help you make better decisions. The project management app remains completely integrated with Odoo's other apps. Your project data flows seamlessly across business operations, saving time and eliminating manual errors. And the best part? Odoo is free to try. And one app is free forever for unlimited users with lifetime hosting and support. As your business grows, Odoo's pricing remains affordable. For just Rs 580, you gain access to everything Odoo offers, making it a cost-effective solution for any business of any size. Check out Odoo and its apps, and also manage your projects using the link in the pinned comments and the podcast description.
The other day, we were having just a discussion. Indians love to have discussions, right?
Right.
How the ISB was started.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So they said we went to all the states and we said we want to locate an ISB in your state. And every state said, okay, you can locate it in our state, but we need to have 25% quota for our state people. I'm like, that's so narrow-minded, zero-sum game thinking. And then they said that they went to Hyderabad, and then Chandrababu Naidu said, here's 200 acres, build an ISB here. So he's seen as the hero.
Visionary, yeah. Right.
Visionary. I said, I have a different opinion. If you guys wanted to build ISBs, you should have built 32 ISBs simultaneously with all the states. And you should have gone to every state and said, we will build this simultaneously because that's what India needs, and let us learn from each other. So if your ISB Rajasthan is doing something better versus ISB in Bengal versus ISB in Maharashtra, let us learn and share this wisdom so that we can all progress, not one state versus another. That is visionary thinking. Why can we not do it? If you're building one, might as well build 50.
And you don't think that's a capital problem?
No, that is the zero-sum game problem. We think capital is holding us back.
You think enough capital?
The whole world is there ready with capital to fund great ideas. All of what we do in our business, IP creation, all comes from capital from around the world that's willing to put billions of dollars if the idea is good. It's the lack of ideas. This is a good idea. Why build only one? Build 50. There is no capital problem. The capital problem comes when you think you're operating a zero-sum game. You come from a village game mentality. You don't come from a modern thinking mentality. You can tap into world capital markets and say, we need capital to build these 50 schools, and this is how they will pay you back because through fees and this and that. Do the whole thing. I mean, I invested in some company that is building parking lots for Amazon drivers. They didn't come and say, we'll build one parking lot in San Francisco for an Amazon drivers. They said, we are approaching 50 different cities in America to build 50 parking lots at the same time in all of the different zones. And when we are done, we'll go to the next 200 cities. That is scale visionary thinking. All we need is scale visionary thinking here. That's it.
What kind of people are you hanging out with when you're here in India? Are you at liberty to talk about them? Like what kind of, like, are you meeting entrepreneurs here or policymakers?
No policymakers, nothing. I just, whoever.
Okay.
Hang out with people, Gen Zs, my friends, family,
Right.
everybody. We have a hierarchical society. If India has to make progress, that hierarchy has to be broken. Because good ideas come from young people.
Right.
They don't come from people who've conditioned to doing something certain way. They are frozen. They've become wood.
Right. They're calcified at that point.
Calcified.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm saying I love hanging out with young people because I love challenging, and I'm saying it's not just my idea. Please take it and do it.
Right.
The next young entrepreneur from real estate guy, think of doing, somebody who's building a hospital says, I want to borrow money at a cheaper rate to build one. I'm like, no, not one more hospital. Build 500. I'll find capital for you to build 500 hospitals. The whole world knows India needs 500 hospitals, or 5,000 or 50,000.
Right.
It's
Make a
just
dent.
lack of thinking.
Right.
There is no dearth of capital on planet Earth. There is only a dearth of good ideas. And good ideas will get funded by this thing. Like, it's a simple problem. If let's say, I'm just simplifying.
Yeah.
Let's say it costs 50 crores to build a university.
Right.
And then you'll be able to employ, so many university students will come and they'll pay so many fees. And that fees, will pay for the construction cost, this, that. It's just a business problem. Why just do one when you can do 500 universities? It's just a question of how much capital. There's no dearth. I mean, international institutions will fund these things.
And you don't think beyond capital, it's also a problem for talent because you need 500 managements running it effectively? None of that is an issue?
We have a country of 1.5 billion people. Are you saying there is a dearth, there is a shortage of people in India?
No, but talent.
Train them.
And well, that is overall a positive some situation if they're
That's
trained.
it.
Right. Yeah, right. Have you read any of the works of Lee Kuan Yew from Singapore?
No.
He was a hard taskmaster in this certain way.
But instead of hard taskmaster, I'm like, we are enamored with large numbers. Like we talk about 5th largest economy, 4th largest, 3rd largest. I have a parallel to that. In physics, the weakest force on planet Earth are the gravitational forces. Interplanetary gravity, this, that. The strongest are the atomic forces. I'm saying that's not the problem you're solving. The problem you should be solving is per capita GDP, not how big our economy is. It's a meaningless number.
No. You said it. That's literally true. What is the point of being, forget 4th largest economy. If everybody is still fighting for clean air, water and food, forget 4th largest economy. You have to contend with that paradox, and unless you do, your emotions are meaningless to me, right? Be realistic. Your old parents and grandparents are taking in this air. Please don't tell me we are the 4th largest economy. Please tell me how are we solving this urgent crisis? I know what you're talking about. I understand the attitude.
That's why focus on the atomic level. And the atom in the universe is equivalent to a family,
Right.
to an individual.
Right.
In the global way of looking at things, your view should be atomic forces. Few atoms destroyed all of Japan, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, whatever. That's because the atomic forces are the strongest, not the gravitational forces.
Not the big picture, big stuff. It's the smallest.
It's all bambu jumbo. It's the smallest.
Right.
If you can increase the per capita GDP, your focus should be to increase the per capita GDP from 2,500 to 25,000.
Yeah.
The whole government's effort should be that.
That'll change everything. That'll change everything. That'll change literally everything. In fact, I have a very smart friend also in the business of technology who was writing about this on Twitter recently. He said, I went to China in 2008-9. The pollution problem was similar. The GDP per person was similar. As soon as they moved from 2,500 to 3,500, the pollution problem went away. It's really a function of just how much money people make, and then what do they do with that money.
Exactly.
I was watching your interview with Simi Grewal yesterday.
Yeah.
But have you looked at that interview recently?
Yes, I have.
And what do you think of it?
I still like it. And you know how I found it?
How?
On the net. My kids were having a discussion with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of discussion was, is dad famous or not?
What kind of a conversation is that to have?
I have 7, 8, 9-year-old. Right now they're
okay.
8, 9, and 12-year-olds.
Fair.
So my younger one says, let's search it up.
Right.
Let's see if dad is famous or not.
Right.
And so Max, my elder son, he searched up the internet, found that interview, and watched the whole thing from start to finish. And then he tells my younger kid, yeah, I think dad is famous.
Actually, that interview starts with that question. No, Simi's asking you about why you built Hotmail, and you said it's more fame than fortune.
Yeah.
Were you enchanted by fame then significantly? Was that?
I was, yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe I was young and, not very mature.
Sure.
So maybe I
I
wanted to
mean,
be.
you give $400 million to a 29-year-old. What do you expect? Right? Like, I mean, I completely understand that charm. I think young people have that charm worldwide. I think what I do has made it so democratic to be famous. I don't even think being famous holds the same weight as it used to once. Like, it was an efforted activity back in the day. Now you got to dance on TikTok to be famous. And
That's right.
Right? It's a very commoditized way of becoming famous. Looking back, and let me try and phrase this question right. It is my personal hobby, or maybe hobby is not the right word. It's a personal fascination. I look at people and the way they age and what it feels like and how their minds change and how their approach to their younger selves changed and how no old person can ever escape making mistakes when they were young. Right? Walk me through what that looks like, because that's a bold interview. You're talking about fame and you're talking about how you got rich, and there's a flamboyance to you then. And there's a charm to you now, but it's a more matured charm, visibly. Tell me, how does money and fame and success and all those things in life has shaped you over the last 30, 40 years?
So initially, like, every young person, you get sudden fame and fortune, it changes you. You start thinking about yourself differently. Maybe it's a way of you get to fuel your own ego, and you think you are invincible. You think you have conquered the whole world, and you think you're at the top of your game. And what life has taught me is that's the wrong way to think about life. That the ultimate purpose of life is actually to be humble. And the more humble you are, the more opportunities the universe opens up for you. And that it's taken me 10 years, 29 to 39, and it took me about 10 years to realize that I wasn't great. I just got lucky.
And you're honest about that.
Absolutely. Why not? That's what we want to teach everyone else, right? Why should I tell everybody I'm great? I thought I was great, but life taught me, no, I got lucky.
What do you mean by that?
I met the right people at the right times, and the opportunity of the early days of the internet, opened itself. And, I have seen so many companies succeed and so many companies fail. And sometimes companies succeed just because they were at the right place at the right time. And companies fail because they were at a time when everything else was not mature enough for them to succeed. For example, let's talk about storage, online storage.
Like Dropbox and stuff. Yeah, right.
Dropbox and Box. They became superbly successful in 2008. I had seen 3 companies in the 1999-2000 time frame that were doing the same thing as Dropbox or Box fail in the dot-com bust of 2001 because bandwidth was not available, right?
Like uploading, downloading.
Uploading, downloading.
So it was not fast enough to put files up and down.
Exactly.
And so the ecosystem was not mature enough for their idea.
Yes.
And the idea predated the maturation of the industry.
Exactly.
Huh.
Same thing with, before Skype, there was some other company that was doing voice over IP, but wasn't good enough.
Right.
Skype came and boom, voice over IP took off.
Right.
So timing of your ideas, and I'll tell you my own experience of timing issue. You know, WhatsApp today is like the standard for text messaging, especially in India.
Right.
I had launched a product like WhatsApp called Jackster SMS, which was just a few months behind WhatsApp, but I had not known of the existence of WhatsApp. We had come up with the idea on my own and started doing it. And when I found out, and the uniqueness of our product was we were allowing people who downloaded the app to send out of network text messages as well.
So what do you mean out of network?
So if you've got an app, you can send a text message to another app user like WhatsApp does, or I could send a text message to you on your mobile number.
Okay. So it's a direct message too, right?
Direct message too, for which we were using something called a transactional pipe, which was open to all telecom operators, and for which we were paying 1 paise per text message. And we were growing faster than WhatsApp. When WhatsApp was already at 5 million user base, in 3 months we got to 1.5 million users. And in fact, had we continued with that, we would have overtaken WhatsApp and become the WhatsApp of the world. TRAI shut us down. They said, you cannot use this transactional pipe of 1 paise per minute, per message. We're like, why? Because you are spamming people. I said, where is the spam? The message is originating with an individual. It's terminating at an individual number. We're just carrying that message in a unique way. We are converting from a data origination and terminating on a, mobile network number.
Sure.
But no, that is spamming. This transactional pipe is to be used only for banking transactions and other kinds of things. Like they said, first they shut us down for 3 months. Then they said, if you want to continue it, you have to use the other pipe, which is 50 paise per text message.
That's 50 times the cost.
50 times.
Yeah, that makes it unsustainable immediately.
That's it.
Huh.
Otherwise, and we had to shut the company down. 2 years later, WhatsApp was sold for 20 billion. Today, the worth of WhatsApp is probably 600 billion because it's part of Meta.
Yeah.
And here is an example of an out-of-box idea that was shut down in India and was Indian engineers, Indian development team, everyone would have gotten wealthy over here. But the Indian government shut us down because over here people are eager to implement what I refer to as the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law.
Say more to that effect. I don't think people understand this difference very well.
Letter of the law is, this is what the law says and this is my interpretation of it.
In Hindi, Lakeer ke Fakir, right?
Lakeer
ke Fakir, right, yes.
Whereas spirit of the law is, this law is meant to solve this problem and there has to be a fair, equitable. So in the US, people follow rules and laws of natural justice, natural law. In India, we stick to the letter of the law. If the law says this is meant for transactions only, in my opinion, you are not doing a transaction. You're like, it's helping us, it's helping society at large, we're not harming anyone, we're not breaking any laws. It is your interpretation, right?
Right.
And so, but they will go out of their way to penalize you. I'll give you another example.
Right.
When I got admitted to Caltech, I got a letter of admission, and there Caltech said, we will take care of tuition. You have to cover room and board. All right? And room and board was about $5,000, and tuition was about $12,000. Roughly about that much.
For the entire length of the program?
No.
For a
1
year?
Per year. 12,000 and 4,000, whatever that number is. So I was super excited. My parents, of course, could not even afford $4,000 or $5,000 for room and board. And but they took a loan, and I was super excited to be going to Caltech, right? A dream of any kid.
Agreed. Yeah. Great school.
Great school. The best in the world.
And back then, it gives you an edge like nothing does as far as the Indian space is concerned. Yeah, right.
There was a rule in the RBI that anytime you get financial aid or you have to get 75% financial aid, and that they would cover, they would allow you to take out foreign exchange for only 25%, because they were trying to limit the amount of foreign exchange that people used,
Right.
in their way of thinking of limiting foreign exchange for education purposes. The aid that Caltech gave to me came up to be 72% of the total cost. So I went to RBI and I said, I'm not asking for 28%, just give me 25%. I'll eat 3% less, for room and board.
Right.
It's because that's the estimated cost.
Right.
It's not the actual cost.
Right.
You and I know, as Indians, we can go and live on less. You'll eat little, 3% less means nothing.
Yes, right. Agreed.
No, the rule is you have to get 75%. And my mom was a banker, and I went to every bank, every RBI person that I knew, the governor, just begging, please allow me to go. And I'm not taking any more, foreign exchange than what you have, what is,
Offered.
what's the rule?
Right.
The rule is 25% only, give me 20. I'll take care of 3% of less. No. I almost never went to Caltech.
And then how did that?
So my dad, in desperation, tried everything. Finally, he sent a fax to Caltech and said, is there any way you can increase this aid from 72 to 75%? I brings tears to my eyes. Sorry. Within 24 hours, Caltech wrote back and faxed back, aid increased to 75%.
And that just goes on to say, right? Like, I mean, if Caltech can make that exception
Yes.
for somebody that's not even theirs yet,
Yes.
RBI can make that exception for somebody that's theirs. And if RBI could foresee that Sabir Bhatia is going to start a company and sell it for as many zeros as there were at that point, right? I've had smaller examples like this. Anytime there's been a credit card fraud with me in the US, I'll just call them up, be like, hey, listen, this is not me. And they'll reverse that transaction.
Yeah.
Here, the money is gone. You can forget about it. And I've studied law here in India. I come from a legal family. My parents are all lawyers. At least my dad's a lawyer, my mom's a judge. And my dad's an income tax lawyer. And income tax is where jurisprudence or the interpretation of law gets really something else. It becomes like a whole khichdi in itself, man. Like abhi recently, I think Nirmala Sitharaman, who's the finance minister, she said, if popcorn is caramelized, there's a different tax rate than if it is salted. And you just think about the number of cases that rest as dusting files in a cabinet in the different courts of India. Why don't we just make the process simpler?
Exactly.
Why don't we just
Exactly.
make it easier on ourselves? And the multitudes of corruption that is possible on the lower level because of the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. We are living in a quicksand.
Yes.
And it's filled with legal words that the common man does not understand.
I agree
And
with
every lawyer has lost their reputation because every other lawyer who's not as clean and as pure as the rest of them has taken advantage of clients because of this. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. India tends to come in its own way as opposed to helping its participants, its citizens
Exactly.
grow.
I'll give you another example.
Please.
In about 2015, I started another company in India that was similar to Stripe,
So online payments.
online payments.
Oh, you got into hell for that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can't do online payments that simply. in India.
So the idea was, we will make it simpler for other companies to take care of the collection of credit card stuff.
So it's credit card bill payments?
All kinds of.
All kind of payments. Okay.
And so we become the Stripe of India, where we get one license, and for that license, we let other companies ride off of our license and make it simpler for them, just like Stripe. Give them a little code they can embed, and we start processing a lot of credit card transactions and other kind of payment transactions. So one of the first customers was one of my other companies that was a travel company. Now, this company, was collecting 40-50 crores of processing fee, but the actual revenue is only for
1%.
travel 1%.
Right.
The tax guys now retrospectively are saying, no, in our opinion, your transactional this thing is your revenue. How do you argue?
How do you pay taxes on 100 times
That's it.
the base rate? Yeah,
That's it.
right.
And it's just a matter of interpretation, right?
Right.
But they, to harass us, said, you have to pay this much tax. And the rules are you have to pay tax now and claim credit later, or give us so much and we'll take care of everything. I mean, that is just how can a modern economy grow when I have to explain to a tax guy the difference between
Transaction volume and revenue.
transactional amount and actual revenue, realized revenue, and from that revenue our costs. So we were actually making a loss.
Right.
On a loss making, they are forcing us to pay tax
And that 200 times the base rate.
100 times the base.
Base rate. Yeah, that makes no sense.
So this is like, you're giving the power of interpretation and willful wrong interpretation of the law
Right.
to tax guys, which is you're taking away the rights of the citizens of the country.
Right. And I don't want it to sound like too English speaking, foreign educated, you living in the Bay Area, that we're shitting on India in whatever capacity. I feel like now that India is over $2,500 GDP per person, these are the exact next steps. Don't get me wrong. This is not a future process. If you talk to anybody who's working in Bangalore in any startup, and I mean the CXO types, the guys who are looking at the future, they'll all tell you that the bureaucratic hassle is insane. And I spent one very interesting month working in a capacity, I cannot talk on the camera, but one very interesting month working in let's say a semi-bureaucratic capacity, right, in Punjab. And so I went from office to office, all the lower level offices that common people deal with, tehsils, hospitals, schools, government, all government, and I tried to run a survey, figuring out what makes these systems efficient versus inefficient. And I came out thinking that there is a large trust problem between the individual and the institution. The institution does not trust the individual. The individual tries to cheat the institution because it already feels like the institution is overbearing. You bring 5 licenses. I will bring 3, but I will get 2 fake licenses. So now the institution's like, ye to 2 fake license la, agli baar 7 license lana. And that creates this sort of self-fulfilling trap. It's almost like, the harder you pull, like a straight jacket, the harder you pull, the tighter it gets.
I have a simpler explanation.
Please do. I'm sorry, I'm more complicated.
The simple explanation is India is still operating on a zero-sum game mentality.
Talk to me more about it.
Subconsciously, we don't want to see other Indians succeed. We want to pull them down because we think subconsciously that if somebody succeeds, it is at our expense.
As far as reputation is concerned, the difference becomes clear. So it is at my expense. If you become more successful, it is at my expense because I look smaller in front of you.
That's right.
So that part at least holds true. But
I'm saying another way, if we can just change the thinking of every individual in India to think that if you succeed, I also succeed because you are lifting all, a rising tide lifts all boats. That maybe I can learn from you. There is another way. So it is fundamental to socialism versus capitalism. A capitalist way of thinking is let us each help each other, make
Right.
wealth,
Yeah.
money.
find opportunities that make everybody money.
And the entire IP industry actually helps each other. There is no competition between Microsoft and Google. They are all trying to produce the best.
Really?
Yes.
They're not competing internally?
No, they're not. That's the outside view. Internally, that is why you see all of AI, all the advantage, the Llama 2, 3, 4, whatever, everything is in open source. What does that tell you? They're putting out IP because they're saying the whole open source movement is let everybody benefit from this idea factory. And that is the difference between what happens in America and what happens in India. I'll distill it down to a simpler. Over here, the standard answer given to any kid who wants to do anything different is no,
Right.
not yes. For example, my social media team accompanied me to an event, and there was a stairway that was shut off for the event. And they wanted to shoot me climbing up the stairs. We went to the guy, the security guy. No, not allowed. I'm thinking, if that same scene had been in America, the security guy would have said, "What angle are you looking at? Let me help you with is that your vision? Oh, let me open this and help you stand here and take it this way." Everybody is just there to help each other. It makes them happy. There is no such thing as hard and fast rule that's just closed for the event,
Right.
because they don't want to have people go down there and fall and break a leg. They want everyone to take an elevator. But you want to do something creative, let me help you. That simple idea of helping each other. When I play a round of golf in the US, I know all 4 golfers are trying to help each other, complimenting each other. Great shot. I hope you make that putt. One of us makes a birdie, that we all win. We all feel good. Over here, the other golfers are like, I hope he doesn't make that putt. I hope he doesn't make that putt. That's the wrong way of subconsciously thinking.
It's scarcity mindset. Yeah.
Zero-sum game. I'm saying, really, if we just change this aspect, just this way of thinking, let me help each other, India will be a superpower in 5 years.
No, you have a very, very solid point. As a matter of fact, if I were to offer psychological advice to, and I have a lot of young guys that listen to me, right? I tell them all the time, listen, operate from an abundance mindset. Operate from the place that you have everything and whatever you need is coming your way. Because the minute you start operating from a scarce mindset, the thoughts that enter your head are not nice. Then you're thinking something ill happens to the other person. You feel like there is only so much. And I understand. I also feel like people underestimate the exposure to abject poverty and brutal instances of injustice that Indians are subject to. Every time you stop your car at a red light and you see those traffic kids beg you for money, it reminds you of how bad things can be. It's a passive shock to the back of your head, to your amygdala, that things can be very bad. And I feel like that contributes to this zero-sum mentality, or for that matter, the scarcity mentality.
We are still stuck in a feudal mindset. We are still not too much different than what happens in Afghanistan or in Saudi Arabia or other parts. We are stuck. We call ourselves a democracy, but our thinking is limited to like village mentality. Punish some guy for looking at a girl. Come on, that's natural.
Right.
We are curbing humans' natural instincts.
Right.
And not developing. And we are focusing on the wrong thing.
Right.
We are teaching our kids it's okay to lie. But looking at a girl is really bad.
Right.
It's really
Right. Like what is really happening at that
It's
moment?
really the opposite. Lying is the biggest problem in our country. People are living a lie.
It's a very dishonest life.
It's a dishonest life.
Right. And it's abundant. It's abundant. If you look around, it's abundant.
AQI, we will not publish more than 500 because that'll make us look bad.
Yeah, right.
You're
Can you
lying.
imagine? Yeah.
What is the real GDP? God alone knows, because let's lie. Lying is okay. Lying is a crime in America.
At least on that level, on the level of institution.
Fudging books, doing things,
Right.
paying bribes. That's exactly what has come to bear with over here. And if you don't, and as long as you don't get caught, it's okay. That's the wrong mindset. We haven't developed our conscience.
Right.
We have to have a society where we enable people to develop their conscience, because ultimately truth wins. I mean, these are the original principles of our Vedas and stuff, and we're ignoring them.
Exactly. For a society that is as civilizationally deep as we are, I think the rest of the world, when it comes to culture, is a grade school student. India is a university level course when it comes to at least understanding the nature of the mind and life. And yet still, when the discourse happens about it, I often say people, when they talk about the civilization of India, they'll talk about the past and would completely blindside themselves to the present. It's not really the same worlds at all. What used to be in people's minds and what they ignore is completely not the same. But you know what? I don't want this to be very discouraging. I think there's a fair amount of criticism that's very useful, because somebody has to bring in the vision that will slowly begin to transform the minds of people. That's my job in some way, to provide a platform for that. But take it one step further. Tell me what is good about India, the Indian markets, or for that matter, the Indian people, as far as entrepreneurship, innovation, or in your experience in general.
The greatest asset in India are Gen Zs. They have a mind of their own. We can't change the minds of people.
Older people,
Older people. They're done.
That's
You know,
calcified.
once your mind is made up and you think of your view of the world, of what is right, what is wrong, like we mentioned, lying, no lying,
Right.
obfuscating, frauding, defrauding people. That's over. We can't change that.
Right.
The Gen Zs are the future. They are the greatest asset we have. And so what is really great is, and everybody's interested in entrepreneurship. If we can change their mindsets and start giving them problems to solve and real critical problems to solve, along with funding, these kids will transform the future. So that is the opportunity. Now, of course, you've asked me a very complex question where, the entire ecosystem has to buy into this, which means the entire venture capital ecosystem has to buy into this as well. To say, we will fund great ideas that have an impact and that will change the world. We don't want to fund ideas where we can just get an exit in 3 years or 4 years. If that's the mindset, then we will just continue in a piecemeal kind of fashion.
Yeah. Cheap bets.
If we really want to change, for example, the bets that, when Sequoia invested in Google, they're like, we had no idea. There were 26 search engines, and some VC firms passed on Google as well because they said there are 26. What are you going to do? Google said, we're going to solve it algorithmically, which is today being done by hand or being done by a very superficial methodology called scraping of websites. Let's put some more intelligence into ranking. How can we rank the websites not just on what they say they are, which is scraping, but let's figure out if we can get some data and information from the metadata, which is how many websites are pointing to that website or how many websites this website is pointing to. That's metadata.
So the innovation was
$3 trillion company out of an idea.
Right.
That is the way, that comes from critical thinking. And if we can teach critical thinking, there is no dearth of intellectual capital in India. But if you channel that intellectual capital into making, 2 + 2 = 5, this thing, that thing, put a little bit here, a little bit there, and, buy from X, sell to Y, that's a trader mentality. You cannot make progress that way. True progress and if we have to become an IP-based economy, like we discussed earlier,
right,
we've got to encourage critical thinking.
Right. I think generations are an interesting chasm. Like, you can actually change the future of any society by influencing the next generation. And similarly, technology in its own way is a generational chasm. So we're moving from the internet age to the AI age. And that allows you a point of equalization. If you master AI faster than the rest of the world, and you can because it's a new game altogether, you are suddenly in the race. And in all fairness, my assessment is India has a extremely smart, hardworking, adaptable, adjusting population. Yeah. And all of those things are skills. And if you want to test out in a neutral environment, if those skills work out, you can look at the Bay Area, you can look at New York and New Jersey and the rest of California. Wherever Indians go abroad, they master it. I think there's a statistic, pull this up, that 49% of land in London is owned by Indians at this point. We are some of the smartest people in the rest of the world. But why that same intellectual capital does not translate to fiscal capital here is a question mark that needs to be answered. I think we are very smart people with very underdeveloped systems and a very nascent education system. And I think that hurts the most.
I agree with you.
I think
But like I said, we cannot I've thought about this problem and I said, what will it take to fix this problem? And waiting for the education system to change and catch up, not happening in our lifetime.
No.
We need to build probably like 10,000, 100,000 colleges before.
It really makes a difference.
So what's the next best thing? How can I use AI? So I've created an app called Showreel. All right? Showreel B cubed. And through which I teach critical thinking to kids.
How do you define critical thinking?
It's a way of thinking It's a way of coming up with your own solution to a problem. What does your inside gut tell you?
So is it tapping into my instinct?
It is tapping into instinct. Today, how to do something that has already been done before, AI will do it better.
Right.
Let's say you have a way of coding,
Right.
or you have a way of computing tax. You're an accountant, a legal opinion. AI will do it better. Legal stuff, you search for opinions of the past. What opinion has this judge given on this similar case?
Issue, right.
Issue. AI will do it better. You just type in and say, this is my case. Find the 5 most similar cases to this. Earlier, you had to tap into LexisNexis, do this, prepare arguments. You can tell AI and prepare an argument for me. It'll do it for you. So that is meaningless in the age of AI. But what is meaningful is critical thinking, where I can use my imagination to think of a product or imagine a world that still does not exist and come up with a solution for a future world. So you're looking into the future, you're not looking into the past.
No, you're speaking. That's actually a very good way of understanding it, because I feel like my education system, until I stepped outside, and I have a very strong transition phase, because I studied in India, went to the US. The first class I took was a class in Hinduism, and it was a class on Krishna. Mind you, I am from Vrindavan. My sister's named Radhika. So we are a Krishnite family. I was raised in the tradition. So this class should be easy, right? I do the readings. It's not very difficult. I sit down to write my first paper, and I got a D grade on it. I couldn't believe it. So my professor called me in, and he told me in very many ways how I hadn't even written anything in the paper except copying written material. And to my mind, I was like, this is all I've ever learned, is copy what you have read, maybe make it into your own language at best. If you're smart enough, you can do it, paraphrase well, and that's good enough. And it did not dawn upon me for an entire semester that some amount of originality, whether wrong, whether completely stupid, is required for me to work here. And I'm beginning to think what you mean by critical thinking is something very similar, because most of my education is, what did you read in class yesterday? Repeat it today in the test. And it's no longer an education system, it's a testing system. Guised, decorated as an education system. Because all that matters is the test, right? In every sense of the word. You're taught what the test needs and you focus on the test. Everything is the test and not the education at all. But is your idea of critical thinking like first principles thinking, like start from beginning?
Yes.
Forget what you know and now start building up to it.
Yes.
And you think that can be taught, or is this a life experience kind of thing?
It can be taught.
Is there a way you measure how much you've taught
Yes.
this to someone?
Yeah.
How do you measure it?
AI.
What's the AI's app?
Measure this answer. And so the way I have structured the app is I ask people to come up with a solution to this question in their own words. So they answer me in an interview.
Right.
Like a Zoom-like interview. I'm digitized.
Right.
But I ask the questions and they provide the answers. And each of their answers is then graded by AI on how creative is this answer? How out of box is this thinking? How unique is it to the level of, and we put the inputs also of, this is a 9th grader answering this question versus a 45-year-old versus a 56-year-old entrepreneur answering this question.
Right.
So AI understands that. And based upon that, they come up, this is creating, it lacks in this area of creativity or this area of this thing. So,
and how does the participant get a feedback?
they get an actual feedback with actual notes provided by AI.
Right.
Where you're like, hey, you can please go and change. This is not unique enough.
Right.
Which is a polite way of saying you're copying it.
Yes.
Or you're doing it this way.
Right.
Think more creatively. This lacks originality. So the AI provides you with all of that feedback. Today, it's not enough to know. See, all of our knowledge, so-called, in India is based on how well you know a subject. Like you said, testing.
Right.
It's completely useless. It's what you do with knowledge. Aristotle said this however many hundreds or thousands of years ago. Knowledge without action is not knowledge. It's the action portion that is missing. Today we've got millions of people in India in very high positions. They're all theoretical geniuses. They've never worked with their own hands. They don't know the issues and problem solving ability when you're actually working with your hands and figuring out what to do. That comes only from experience and critical thinking. Hey, wait a minute, I'm doing the same process over and over again. Why can I not automate this process? Right? A smart person will do that. Today we're like, oh, let's hire people to do that. You're not going to get originality from them because they think all they have to do is this.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
Right.
It is that, I mean, I'm a bicyclist, for example, right? And somebody who is probably an avid bicyclist came up with this idea to simulate an outdoor biking experience indoors, not the Peloton way, but by reversing the
the wind pressure.
No. Reversing the screen, where it becomes more of a 3D effect, where instead of you watching a 2D image, the camera is on your head and you are looking at a 3D. So when you're bicycling, you're actually traversing, forests or mountains or roads, and that visual change in the way you, and with depth perception, that you watch a screen that is 3D.
Wait, is this a VR device? Am I wearing
No,
something?
no.
So is it a camera? Is it a projector on my glasses, or how does this? What is it called?
This is a new startup.
Oh, it's a
GoFundMe,
Okay.
but it's like it's just reverse the whole. It I think puts the camera on the bicycle itself.
Sure.
That is looking at the whole thing, so you get a perspective when you're biking as if you are in the forest.
Yeah, because if the screen's steady and I'm trying to move, the screen remains steady, and so the effect is lost.
That's
the experience is lost.
That's right. So this is just a visual deception. But yet it is creative, and he came up with it because he's like, why can I can bike for 5 hours out in the open,
right?
But when it comes to a Peloton, I can't do it more than 35-40 minutes.
Because I'm bored.
Because I'm bored. Eyes are bored. My audio-visual cortex, the visual...
I'm not fully involved. My brain is not completely active when I'm doing it. Yeah. No, it's a huge difference.
Whereas you're seeing stuff.
Right.
You actually feel you're there.
Right.
That visual change
Right.
makes all the difference.
Right.
And you're taking in all of this data from your peripheral vision, not your frontal vision. Now, I'm working on another product that it's a new human-machine interface that will allow people to consume data at 100 times that they're currently consuming it.
So you're building for the dystopian future.
Not
Man
the
versus
dystopian.
machines.
The
utopian.
In the next 4 or 5 months, you will see a product that we will help you experience data at 100 times the rate that you're currently experiencing.
So I'm not reading it at that point, because reading has...
You're not reading it.
Yeah, because that
As
has a
it is,
latency.
84% of the internet is videos
Right.
already.
Right.
Videos and
But
images.
videos are slower than text. In
we
terms
will,
of...
we will show you videos at 100 times the rate that you can consume them today.
I want to get to that in just a second. I want to finish the point about critical thinking. Because my instinctive feeling when you were saying we're helping people write and then grading what they're writing is that you're teaching them verbal...
Not right. They speak.
Oh, they speak the answers.
They actually have to come on camera and record their answers.
Okay.
So there's no writing.
There's no
Which
writing.
means they have to internalize the answer and be confident enough to speak and answer me. I'm the one asking the
Oh,
questions.
so you're the interviewer there.
I'm the
you're live
interviewer.
there.
Yeah.
No, my feel about that is that my instinct said that I don't know if it's critical thinking, Prakhar. I think it's more like helping people reason verbally, even if it's audio, right? It's a verbal reasoning thing. But then I thought about it a little more.
No, it's critical thinking because you have to, after you have got all the inputs, you can use the internet. In fact, we provide you with a professor agent as well, where you can ask, this is my question, what is the answer? Now, you cannot memorize that answer.
Sure.
You have to internalize it, understand it, and put it in your own words. Because when you're answering another human being, like we are having a conversation, this is free flow of thought. I didn't come prepared with any pre-canned answers. I'm telling you how I truly believe and feel. I have internalized these ideas.
Right. This is
They
not
are
something
mine.
you could have learned. You can't speak infinitely if you've learned it. You
That's
can only
it.
speak from your source. And I believe you on that.
That's it.
And in fact, I was actually making the contrapoint there, which is that my experience, And my understanding is all of critical thinking is an exercise in language. And if you can argue for and against the same position over and over, if you do 100 repetitions of that, your critical thinking will go up by a factor.
No. It's what you believe. What story do you believe? I mean, for example, we watch sports, right? India, Pakistan, India, South Africa, India, Australia, whatever. What we are interested in the outcome. But what is the outcome? It's a story. Either Australia won or we won.
Right.
And of course, we want our story versus somebody else's story to come true.
Right.
Critical thinking looks at the world in that way, where what story do you believe? Right? Who is doing wrong to whom? And what is just? You have to internalize it, and you have to come from a point similar to what like Brian Johnson was trying to say, is all of our life is actually a story. And we get to participate in this story and write our own story. So what do we want our story to be? And how we write it is entrepreneurs just imagine and dream a future world that still hasn't occurred. It's nothing to do with the past. So the ultimate purpose of life is not to make money, kind of thing, you know. It is to make a difference to humanity. All entrepreneurs think that way, or the real ones. Like, you know, a famous saying of one of the VCs in Silicon Valley is, it's not the mercenaries that win, it's the missionaries that win. Because missionaries are true to their purpose. We will solve a problem for someone. That one person could be a company, that one person could be an individual. And our belief is if we solve that problem for that one person, we'll solve it for 6 billion people. Hotmail was such an idea. We just solved the problem for 2 people.
Right.
Jack and myself.
Right.
We both were in a company called Firepower Systems. The company put a firewall around the corporate intranet. And Jack came up with this idea, what if we made email available on the web? That would solve our problem. I got it immediately. And we said, let's switch focus from what we were doing, which was a personal web-based database, to this, because this will solve the problem for everyone on the internet. And we had a hard time convincing investors. They're like, whom is this? What is your target market? You know, they come from the traditional world. What is your target segment? I'm like, everyone. What do you mean everyone? You have to have a focus. I'm like, no, everyone on the internet will one day use this. That comes from critical thinking, where you are imagining a future that hasn't occurred.
Right.
And you have come up with a solution, and you are so excited, you know the whole world will use it one day. And that's exactly what happened.
And in that moment, you become a missionary to your mission.
You
right?
become a missionary to
You
your
start
mission.
carrying the message to everyone.
That's it.
Yeah, I think one of the easiest ways to sell is if you truly believe in what you're
That's
selling.
it.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And if you're just bought like a mercenary.
And I'm not doing it because I want to make money.
Right. I think you have enough.
That's it. Maybe I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
But for example,
Right.
we discussed this also, that, people who do startups over here, they want to make it risk-free. Oh, if it's been done before, we'll do the same thing.
Right.
That's, in my humble opinion, as an entrepreneur and as a person who thinks of ideas, that's copying. That's not original thought.
Yeah, at least it's not original thought. Maybe it's importing, not copying. Right? Like at least that's how they would like to see it.
That has finite outcome.
Sure.
That does not have infinite outcome.
Right.
Infinite outcomes happen when it is so original that you've solved a problem for just 2, 3, 4 people who are your friends and your family, but you've solved it in such a critical way that all of the internet will use it.
I mean, think about UPI in India as an example of that, right? I think it's kind of like an innovation, very useful in India, built for India, but will be exported to the rest of the world in a certain way. Where you can, no, you don't think so?
UPI is nothing more than Venmo. Venmo is
Venmo, you can't do transactions with traders, like you can't do it with businesses, right? Venmo is more interpersonal.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's a database.
Huh.
And to say that a UPI is the greatest thing since sliced bread is the greatest joke ever told. Aadhaar is like $1.3 billion ill-spent. Ill-spent.
Ill spent.
Yes.
Yeah? Why?
Because Aadhaar took all of your biometrics, this, that. Where is that being used? A better way to solve the problem of unique identification of individuals would be a video and voice printing technology. Simple, which every smartphone user has. You can build it in under 20 million bucks.
It's a very specific number. How'd you come up with 120 million?
20, not even 120.
Just 20 million.
I'm just guessing as
Sure,
an
okay,
entrepreneur
okay.
to say you don't need more than 10.
You don't need $1
15.
billion is what you're saying.
Absolutely not. That is where, because whoever did this is not a technologist. They don't know technology. They've never coded in their life. That's why that's why this problem exists.
Very interesting.
I know I have built stuff with my own hands, and I know what technology should be used for what purpose and what is innovation. Innovation would be take a voice print of every Indian to just say, मेरा नाम सबीर भाटिया है और मैं इस जगह का रहने वाला हूँ. बस, our voices are unique. Our video is unique. The voice print stored in a database would be the unique identifier that could be used to identify them at the airport. At the airport, the moment somebody walked in with the videos of the people walking in, the guys would not even have to check your card. They would say,
They have some
welcome,
version
Mr.
of that.
Prakar.
Yeah.
We already know. You're already verified. You're already verified. That is technology, and that can be built inexpensively.
I'm not qualified enough, but I'd actually like a conversation where you talk to somebody about this. Somebody who's more understanding of this without pissing them off, because I feel like one of you might get pissed off in that conversation.
I don't want to piss anybody off.
Yeah, right. I know. I know that's not your
I'm
intent.
like, with the most humble of ways, saying, listen, guys, use your brains. This is money ill spent. $1.3 billion? Are you kidding me?
And I mean, it's not beyond imagination. We spend an absurd amount of money building very poor infrastructure often, right? Like, it's not like it's ahistoric in India for that to happen. So I get where you're coming from. Tell me about this human-machine interface that you're talking about. It gives me a little, like, I'm not saying this about your product. I'm saying this about just the world and how it's progressing, whether that be AI, whether that be human-machine interfaces, nanobots, now all this medtech development that's happening. Brian's doing some of it and so on. It's almost kind of scary because I feel like I'm entering a world I read of in books once. Do you think that is the case? Like the future's coming on too fast?
No.
No?
I think it's coming on at... You cannot stop the train of technology.
No, you cannot. I understand that. The way capital...
And I think AGI will not come from large language models.
You will have to explain why that is the case. Because I think the case you're making is large language model and the reasoning is not sufficient for AGI level intelligence.
Yes.
But the methodology of reasoning is insufficient, right? That's what you're saying. The way it reasons.
No.
Then what is it?
No. If it has been thought of before, it's in language.
Sure.
That's not intelligence.
You're saying language and intelligence are different.
Completely different. Exactly. You cannot come up with new original ideas of doing things that humanity has not seen just because you put mumbo jumbo in language and one language says this is how it is done. That means first of all, the very premise of using language to create new reasoning or new arguments or new language means it's already been thought of by someone somewhere. You're just repurposing the words. Just by changing words is not intelligence. Like, a simple way of describing this is, you come up with a simple reason you simplify some idea, or you use very complicated words to describe the same thing, like in legal terms.
Sure,
like
right.
Legalese is very complicated words, legalese that only legal experts can understand to explain what the simple problem is. That is not intelligence. And that is what
LLMs are doing.
Original ideas come from observing the world, being aware of where you are, and coming up with some solution that may not be unique, but that is your own. It's come from within. I'll give you an example. My 9-year-old kid, we go skiing and stuff. He's an expert skier. I turn my skis much more slowly than him. After a couple of days of skiing, he said, "Dad, you know what? I think we should make electric skis." I said,
They
"Why?"
just work on their own, huh?
Yeah. So that you can turn more easily. It puts some power. That is original thought. That is not, let me see how skis are done. And you know what? He went and he built some Lego-based skis based on motors. And will that come from an LLM? No. So we are fooling ourselves. Oh, we know language so well. Like, I am XYZ. I can speak in the most finest of terms. And yeah, LLMs will help you refine your idea to phenomenal. It sounds, oh my God, this has come from somebody who's super well educated. But there is no new idea there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the simple idea is, written in a very eloquent form. Eloquence is not intelligence.
Right. And I took a class in intelligence and language once, as a matter of fact. So right on the money of the subject we're talking about. And I remember my professor, who's actually a legend in the field, he started off by saying, listen, I don't know how to discuss consciousness and intelligence properly because the best understanding we have is language. So we'll talk about language first. And there's a very famous debate in the tradition between B.F. Skinner and Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky, most people know. Skinner is like the father of psychology. And the debate is very similar to the LLM problem, where Skinner says the way kids learn language is that they put together a sentence and see what adults do in response, or the world does in response. And by this trial and error, they learn language through a method called behaviorism, which is I do X and Y happens. Chomsky, who had just graduated out of Harvard when Skinner was this huge legend who propounded this theory on language, Chomsky says, listen, if that was the case, then there would never be an infinite number of sentences. Because if the fact that there are infinite number of sentences that across languages grammar has a similarity says that language comes from a source that is not behavior. That language is a kind of code that the mind understands. It's built into the technology of the brain. And so at that point, behavior and language became very separate. And it was established that language has a source of its own. It does not come from just stringing together a sentence, which is what LLMs do, right? And so you don't think LLMs will become super intelligent because they're just
still
stringing
operating
sentences.
in the box of knowledge that already exists of the internet.
Right.
It may be a very vast knowledge base,
Right.
Which consists of billions of parameters or however many tokens that they're doing and processing, but it's already been thought of.
It's predictive text. Is it similar to predictive text?
Totally predictive text.
Right.
100%.
Right.
The whole LLM basis is its tokenization of language. If these are the words, however long your input is, maybe an essay, maybe one sentence, whatever, this is most likely the output. It's just predicting the output. Well, that's good. It's intelligence.
Right.
For example, the way I use LLMs is to put down what I want to convey to somebody. Let's say if I'm writing a proposal to you, I'm just saying, in the proposal, put A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we're on the same page. Just write it for me. That's not original idea. Original idea is coming up with a new product that doesn't exist, that solves some problem for someone. That won't come from, I can't ask this thing, hey, tell me what are the skis. It may be intelligent enough to say maybe perhaps electric skis, maybe gasoline powered skis, maybe that's okay. But this is language.
It's repurposing existing ideas.
It's
right?
repurposing existing ideas.
Right.
Original thought comes from within, from experience, from doing things by yourself, from imagination, from letting your imagination run wild, from asking yourself questions. I mean, think of how did I come up with this whole showreel idea? Simple. First, I said, what is missing in Indian education? That I had the similar experience to yours at Caltech. I got a D when I wrote my first paper because I just repurposed what was written in the books.
Yep.
And the professor said, what is your idea?
Right.
I've read those books too.
Right.
That's what happened to me as well. So now we've got similar experiences. It's not unique because we come from a different system of thinking and knowledge and school of thought. The other experience I had at Caltech was I took a course in solid state physics, physics of semiconductors.
Sure.
So first of all, you need to know what a semiconductor is. Coming from India, you don't know what a semiconductor is. And the very first class, the professor was like, all of semiconductor theory is based on the diffusion equation. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about?
There's too many words I don't understand.
And then I go back, I read the book, and the last chapter talks about the diffusion equation. So the professor, because Caltech is out there, expected everyone to already have learned and read the first 11, 12 chapters. In India, everybody is spoon-fed.
Yeah. We go to class to read those chapters with the teacher as if we can't do it by ourselves.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I have to run over here. I can't just walk. I went back and tried to read as much as I could before I went to the next class so that I understood what was being said.
Every week, you do about 200 to 500 pages worth of reading before you go to classes.
That's it.
And it's unheard of in India. It just doesn't happen.
That's
right.
it. That's it. That is true knowledge. You're running with it. You're aware of what's going on, and you're solving problems in real time. You're making decisions in real time.
You don't think the LLM-based AI models as they exist today understand what they're being spoken to? Like, if I...
No.
They don't understand.
It's pure tokenization.
It's pure tokenization.
That's it. Pure prediction.
Pure prediction. Like, phone software would do a lower version of it, a lower resolution version of it.
That's it.
So understanding as a phenomena has not happened in machines.
No.
And you think AGI, as your conception, will understand
Yes.
what is being spoken to it?
Yes.
Isn't there I remember this is way before the modern AI revolution that happened in 22. I think 2018, 17, 16, I was reading Kurzweil, and Kurzweil has this prediction that by 2030 or something, singularity will happen. Have you come across that stuff at all? Have you met him?
No, I haven't met him, but he's in my neighborhood, Singularity University, this, that. I
Right.
mean, listen, all these pundits don't know anything. They are just taking wild-ass guesses.
It's a guess, sure.
And anytime people try to make guesses based on time, I think they have an intellectual problem. Time is a man-made construct. Things don't happen because of time. Things happen because of what happens in the environment. Like I mentioned.
Right.
I mentioned timing, but the internet or the world was not ready for a Dropbox-like idea in 2001. It was ready in 2008, and that time period of 8 years was because everybody had massive bandwidth. Now, massive bandwidth could have happened in 4 years, or it could have happened in 20 years. So when somebody uses a time scale to predict outcomes of events, I know they're lying.
You don't think it's an educated guess?
No, it's not. It's just a wild-ass guess trying to show that you know stuff. In fact, in my humble opinion, they don't know anything.
You think it's all like, acha. So you don't give it any weight at all?
Nothing.
And so you think we're far away from AGIs?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It could happen in a few years. What we're working on could be AGI.
This human-machine interface. Tell me
Yes.
about it. What is this?
It's a new way of visualizing data
Okay.
and displaying data.
And it's still visual?
It'll be visual.
It'll be visual, so it'll be a video, and I'm absorbing data faster from that video. I'm learning faster from that video.
Yes.
And is it going to be available to everybody? Is it
Whole
free?
world.
Is
Free.
it free?
Well, initially we will start off with a limited release
Sure.
to make sure that we get all the kinks worked out. So it will be a closed beta user group initially, but eventually the goal is to open it to all 7 billion people who have smartphones, or 8 billion, or however many smartphones there are. My instinct is everyone will use it.
And so it's not a insertion in my head like what Elon's planning at all. No, this is a video-based platform that you're kind of building. Are you at liberty to discuss more, or is this something you want to keep under the wraps?
I like to keep it under the wraps because
Sure.
we are not too far away from releasing the first version.
Okay.
Literally 3 or 4 months away.
Okay, right. Beautiful. Very interesting. I am going to pry a little bit. Tell me if there's something you don't want to talk about. But I'm trying to understand, how does one capture 100 times the data in the same amount of time? Can you not answer that question?
We can answer it. We're going to display data to you, and I can't say any more than this.
Right.
In a spatial way. A spatial representation of data. Not a 2D representation.
How'd you come up with this idea?
I've been working with the team that's been working on this for 14 years.
You've been building this product 14 years.
Not me, but the team.
The team has been.
Yeah.
And what capacity are you involved in? Are you the CEO?
We don't know.
You figuring it out.
We're figuring it out.
Okay, and is this team based out of the Bay Area or here?
No, the US.
Oh, okay.
This kind of, I mean, in the most respectful way, this
Right.
kind of thinking is absent in India today.
Right.
But we need to encourage this kind of.
Take me back a little bit. I know you worked closely with both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. How are they like?
No, I didn't work with Steve Jobs.
You've interacted with him.
I interacted with him only as a student at Stanford.
He was giving a guest lecture. Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 times he gave some lectures, and I was close enough to him.
And what do you think of him? What do you think of his influence?
Fantastic. I mean, he is a visionary.
In some ways, yeah, that's super accurate, right?
He is a visionary, and he has, and maybe I have kind of learned the art of storytelling from him. You know, he would never read off of a PowerPoint presentation. He would have a PowerPoint presentation with just one image, but he would tell you a story. And he would tell you the human story behind every deal or his thought process. And it was bold strokes. You know, for example, when he took helm of Apple after it was written off for dead, what did he do? There were 64 lines of business that Apple was in. He said, kill all of it. Kill revenue. Focus on one thing. Create an iMac that the world will just simply love. Put all your energy into one product that is so damn good that people will want to buy it. And he put a new operating system on it that was built on a Unix operating system, so that it would have no malware and viruses, virus-free and superb, fun to use, easy, same UI that Apple uses. That, and then the iPod revived Apple. It was given up for dead. That requires visionary thinking. Now, Donald Trump is a very controversial individual. Why has America voted for him? And primarily because of Gen Zs voting for him. Because he had a vision. He said, I will do this, this, this. I will get rid of this agency. I will cut government spending. It may be all wrong. We don't know.
Right. Politicians be politicians.
But he is doing what he said he would do. He didn't lie.
Right.
Lying is, I tell you something and I don't do it.
Right.
Because I hoodwink you.
Right.
I manipulate your thoughts into voting for me. That is wrong. That Steve Jobs, everybody who's saved some great companies, they're all visionaries because they are doers. You know, they don't just take a problem and say, problem hai, ye political problem hai, it's stubble burning hai, ye too many traffic hai, ye hai. That is all hogwash. I'm just moving from here to there, I don't know what the problem is, but I have to somehow convince you that I'm knowledgeable enough of it. Go solve the problem. Identify 5-10 people who are experts in pollution and say, come up with a report and tell us what the real problem is and we'll fix it. It may not be political. It may be a scientific problem. It may be
a geological issue. It could be anything, yeah.
It could be because, there are too many generators here.
Right.
It could be because we've got a power plant right in the center of
the city. Yeah.
Then move it. We have to all be proactive. The problem in Indian society is we do not teach decision making to children. And we do not tell them to take responsibility for their decisions.
Right.
Somebody else makes the decision. We are just there. We'll just go
We'll
along.
just party along.
And as a result, all decision making gets to push to the top. And even the top doesn't make the decision. So no decisions are being made.
Yeah. It's a slow moving country, yes.
That's what is causing the slow move. There is no reason in this day and age, with the use of technology, we cannot grow at 20 times the rate we are growing at right now.
Isn't the hypothesis very similar where I know Trump hired Elon and Vivek to do the government efficiency department, right? They have a similar idea, which is that too much spending is happening for too many inefficient processes, and we could run it like a company and clean up a lot of the inefficient actors.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying the same problem exists in India, but whatever problems exist, We are not finding solutions for it. And our goal of every politician should be to increase the per capita GDP of our citizens, not overall GDP, fourth largest, fifth largest, 10th largest. I don't care.
That's a
what it is.
function. That'll happen as a function of focusing on GDP per person.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Tell me about Bill Gates. I'm still very interested because you know why I'm interested. It's kind of comical. I never noticed all the conspiracy theories that started floating around him after COVID until very recently. And I was like, I remember reading up about him as a kid and people thinking he's a hero. Like, what changed? What did pop culture change about him? So I want to understand. You've had first-person interaction with him. How's he like? What is it like being with him? Is he?
He's a great guy. Like I said, we are all entrepreneurs, and he took a bet, and he got extremely lucky with IBM setting the standard and taking his OS as the standard for PCs, and he made money. He gave that to IBM for free. For $75,000, unlimited use. But all of the other, manufacturers had to pay him $50 or $100 to, build the operating system, to incorporate the operating system, and that's how Microsoft started, generating revenue.
Right.
So, very visionary. That's why he bought companies like Hotmail and a whole bunch of other companies, and. He's built a phenomenal company.
How do you think a guy like him is looking into the future? For instance, his acquisition of Hotmail. How is he thinking, okay, this is going to be the future and we should put our money here? And for that matter, not just is this going to be the future, but it's priced properly. Like I'm not over or underpaying for it and that kind of stuff. How is a guy at Bill's level or even your level in many ways thinking about the future?
It's instinct.
It's instinct.
Because at that time, the internet wasn't proven, but he knew the internet was going to be big, and one day there would be all kinds of people generating revenue and doing transactions and making connections happen and all of that stuff. And he just saw an early growth momentum company that was growing fast. And it just made sense. And like I said, we don't know the future. As Brian Johnson also said, everybody who predicts by 2030, this will happen, that'll happen. I don't believe any of them because they don't know. They are just trying to be predictors and say, I told you so. That's not the way. You have to be in touch with technology. You have to see what is going on. You don't just make big, bold bets. You actually have to get your hands and fingers dirty. Like before I delved into this new whole AI bit, I said my view of the world is outdated because I got an education from Caltech, many years ago, 20 years ago. So in about 2017, 2016, I started playing around with AI myself. I taught myself. I took courses online. I reconnected with what was going on. I started programming. I learned Python. I did everything. Because only by doing do you come up with ideas.
Sure.
You don't come up with ideas because you sit on the top of a perch and you say, oh, so-and-so is doing it, so I should do it too. No. I love experiencing stuff firsthand. And I taught myself all of this, and now I'm in touch. And I'm like, okay. Then I put my critical thinking cap on and I say, what is a large language model? I've done this. I realized, I understood. No, my intuition, it tells me AGI will not come from here. It will come from some other place, but not this one, because this is just regurgitation of already existing knowledge. Where are the new ideas, completely out of box, imaginative ideas coming from? Not from this. That is the world that all of us are entering, and that is the world we have to get the next generation ready for. We have to encourage them to be dreamers and out-of-box thinkers.
Right.
Not experts at solving a quadratic equation that has been solved 10 billion times before.
Yeah. Right. Don't punish me for missing a step in my addition question.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
Because phone can do it for me.
That's it.
And calculators could do it 20 years ago.
That's it.
And yeah, like the penalization is of that kind of stuff is just so absurd to me. It just teaches the kids wrong things. I remember when in school you missed putting a dot here, and so therefore I'm going to take marks of 5th grader. What are you teaching the 5th grader at that point?
Yeah.
You're teaching him fear of things they can't even. And I could just type that shit. I could literally type it, but whatever, right? I get riled up about this. I think the education system has more injuries it has bestowed than lives it has saved in some ways. Maybe I'm misquoting myself. Maybe I'm not apprehending the problem properly. But I think so many kids get out of schools already scarred for life.
Yes.
Already afraid of life.
Because
And
they
that's not
think they're
helpful.
not smart because they didn't get 9,900 marks.
Exactly.
Then the real dreamers, the dyslexic ones, or the ones who are like super smart, who can imagine a future, whose intuition allows them to play with numbers, or who can imagine a new world, who are very creative, they are told, you're not
You're
smart.
daydreamers.
You're not smart.
Right.
You're not the 99 and 100 percenters think they are like God's gift to mankind because they can memorize and regurgitate an answer like this. They haven't caused any change to planet Earth. They have just, spent their real brain cycles in memorization and regurgitation, and in fact, they've killed creativity.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Creative thinking encourages creativity,
Right.
encourages out-of-box thinking. And our traditional system that we have today is killing. And by the way, this creative thinking, because my final answer is in the form of a Q&A, right? Even an uneducated person can answer.
Right.
There is no such thing as education means you're smarter.
Right.
And I'm saying that's what we need to tap into, the intellectual potential of the country.
Beautiful. Is there a final message you have for a large part of metropolitan India, young, predominantly male audience that will watch this podcast?
Oh, is it predominantly male? I didn't know that.
No, YouTube's predominantly male. I think it's an 80-20 split, so it's very appropriate in that way.
There is no message. There is, live in the moment. Be aware of what is going on. And let your imagination run wild. And of course, educate yourself with the latest tools that are available on the internet, whether it's AI tools, it's how to use large language models, it's how to come up with videos using AI. Learn all of that, but your imagination will lead to the next breakthrough in technology.
And you're very capable. I mean, for all that is obstructive about the ecosystem that you're a part of, from this conversation, a lot of you might think that, but I think Indians are probably some of the smartest and the most hardworking people I meet around the world. And this is without the bias of me being an Indian. It's just very visible in classrooms, in laboratories, in companies all over the world. You're very capable. You're made of the same meat. Do it. That's what I would add, if that's fair.
That is fair.
Perfect.
Absolutely
This
fair.
has been a great time. Thank you, Sabir. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'm very sorry for this, the way I look. I'm between several trips. This year is so heavy, bro. मतलब साल शुरू हुआ है, सबकी शादियां हैं भाई, सारे नज़दीकी दोस्त अभी ही लुट गए हैं. तो एक शादी, दूसरी शादी, इसकी बैचलर्स, उसकी प्री वेडिंग, उसका तो ये चल रहा है. मेरे को एक दिन मिला है, मैं अभी फरीदाबाद आया हूँ. मैंने बोला इस वीडियो में आपसे थोड़ी देर बात कर लूँ, एंड देन आफ्टर दिस आई विल ट्रैवल अगैन. आई एम गोइंग टू श्रीलंका. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, देयर इज समथिंग आई वांट यू टू डू. ठीक है, मैंने आपको 2024 के एंड में एक वीडियो में अरविंद केजरीवाल वाले पॉडकास्ट में मैंने बोला था, आई एम नाउ इंटरेस्टेड इन डूइंग कॉन्वर्सेशंस आई लाइक. और उसके बाद से ना कुछ लोग चैचा पापा कर रहे थे अबाउट सम ऑफ द गेस्ट्स आई हैव हैड, एंड I understand. First of all, we can never be in perfect alignment. And my mental model for who I want to talk to is very simple. Who do I find interesting? What do I think would be an interesting conversation? And so there's certain few factors there. कभी कुछ delay lags भी होते हैं कि पहले से recorded etc. But it's an interesting conversation in an intellectual dynamic, in an intellectual direction. And I am very interested in that. I think this is where I blossom also. Like if you look at the Brian Johnson, Eric Weinstein conversation, I blossom there. It's very natural for me. This is who I am. When I completely let go and become prakhar in English, this is roughly where it begins to end up. And so I want you to tell me if you like this conversation. Because if you really like this, if you were like, oh yes, more of this, मेरे को पता है इतने views नहीं आएंगे जितने मेरे किसी और podcast पे आ सकते हैं. But at least I know how many people are hot for this, because I think 2025, this genre is going to explode. I think people want more intellectual conversation. I think if anybody's been paying attention, they will realize that the way old podcasts were done, mass produced, shorts and clips optimized, clickbaity and hyperbole intensive, like that model is now dead, because podcasts have become mainstream and people expect good conversation. And so for anybody who wants free game, I think the quality of your conversation is going to reign supreme. And I mean, the reason why you guys are here is because you see that I try extremely hard in conversation to make it better. Some land, some don't land. I understand. I'm a work in progress. I'm learning all of this. But this year, it's going to get wilder. Believe me, have faith. Patience, beta, patience. I know what I'm about. But tell me if you like this, really, because then I know I want to experiment in this direction more. I want to talk to more interesting founders, entrepreneurs, intellectuals, visionaries, and just overall, just let's get a little bit of a dialogue going. Too much and it'll be a problem, but a little bit I think will be fine. So thank you so much for watching. And real validation, subscribe. Real validation, like and comment. Real validation, timestamp. I love this. If you really like what I do, because I go out and I meet all these people who love my work, but in the comment section, सबसे rage baity comments ही दिखते हैं. You know, that's just the nature of social media. So if you like, and I know you lurk, you don't necessarily type down comments, do me a favor, tell me, yaar, once in a while, let me know. मैनू भी देखने दो यार. But always a pleasure serving you. See you in the next episode.